Welcome to the 15th video in the series leading up to your technician class license exam. In this video, I'll discuss interference. During the days of analog TV and landline phones, interference caused by amateur radio operations was much more common than it is today. It's important, however, to know what your responsibilities are regarding potential interference. The Federal Communications Commission is responsible for regulating any device that emits radio frequency emissions, whether intentional or not. The Commission rules are divided into parts. Part 97 are the rules governing the amateur radio service. Part 90 governs commercial radio, such as radio and TV stations, land mobile radio, and similar. Part 15 regulates just about everything else. Part 15 devices are classified into two categories: unintentional emitters, such as computers, TV receivers, or DVD players that may generate RF signals as part of their operation, but should be shielded in such a way that no RF emissions get outside of the device. Low power intentional emitters are the other category, and include such things as garage door openers or cordless phones or wireless microphones, which must transmit and receive RF signals in order to function. FCC rules in Part 15 are clear and state that Part 15 devices must not interfere with Part 90 and 97 devices, and further, they must accept normal emissions from those devices. The problem comes from cheap foreign devices that aren't compliant with the FCC rules. The FCC, unfortunately, relies upon the manufacturer to test and report their compliance, and some of these manufacturers are much less than forthcoming. So who's at fault? If your amateur radio operation is interfering with your neighbor's TV, the FCC rules say that your neighbor's TV is at fault, as long as your radio, transmitter, feed line, and antenna comply with Part 97 rules. So before doing anything else, make sure your equipment is working correctly and be certain that all the connectors are tight. You can also check to see if your TV or cordless phone sees the interference. Check with a ham radio friend on the air to verify that your signal sounds clean with no splatter or over deviation. You can also employ a low-pass filter on your antenna feed line, which will attenuate any VHF and higher harmonics. Ferrite chokes on cables and phone lines will often solve the problem as well. However, don't do anything to your neighbor's TV or phone. Let their service provider determine the best course of action. Radio frequency filters are available in a variety of capabilities. A high-pass filter allows RF to pass above a certain specific frequency, and the design of the filter determines the cutoff frequency. Low-pass filters do the reverse, allowing frequencies below the cutoff to pass and attenuating anything above that frequency. There are also band-pass filters, band reject filters, and notch filters. Overmodulating the signal, harmonics not properly suppressed, overdriving the amplifier, too much microphone gain, or over-deviating by speaking too close to the microphone are all potential causes of interference. When we moved into our house in Tooele a couple of years ago, and I got my radio equipment set up, I turned on the radio to find far more noise than signal. I was being interfered with. I was sure that one of my neighbors must have grow lights or something to cause so much noise. I started to investigate and found that the noise was all coming from inside my own house, not from the neighbors. Further investigation verified that the noise was mostly in the room with my radios. I had a number of wall chargers plugged into power strips, and the power strips had USB charging ports. As soon as I unplugged the power strips, most of the noise went away. If you feel you are being interfered with, Make sure your own equipment is working properly. If it is coming from a neighbor, help the neighbor identify and eliminate the source of interference. Meanwhile, use good practices to eliminate unwanted frequency energy. Use shielded Ethernet cable. Put ferrite chokes on cords and cables. Use high-quality connectors and cable, and ground everything together. Mobile operation brings a whole different set of interference issues. The photo on the right is of a vehicle making its way to the Dayton Hamvention a few years ago, driving quite slowly down the highway. The driver may well have some interference issues. Most of the noise for mobile operations originates under the hood of the engine compartment, although there can be also some noise coming from the fuel pump that's usually located inside of the gas tank in the back of the car. Use heavy gauge wire connected directly to the battery and ground to power your mobile radio, and fuse both the red and the black wires. When purchasing the mobile radio, choose a radio that has a noise blanker and noise reduction capability. If necessary, you may need to install DC-AC filters on the positive wire for the battery. When operating mobile, if you receive reports of poor audio, make sure you're exactly on frequency. Be certain that your vehicle is delivering at least 12 volts to the radio. Lastly, you may just be in a bad location, and moving a few yards may resolve the issue. This concludes the video information on interference. During the video, I discussed the FCC regulations regarding the Amateur Radio Service Part 97 rules, the Commercial Radio Service Part 90 rules, and all other emitters under Part 15. Part 15 devices must not interfere with Part 97 and Part 90 devices, and Part 15 devices must accept normal emissions from Part 97 and Part 90 devices. I've also discussed some ways to mitigate interference. If you have any questions or concerns, please note them for discussion in our next online meeting, or email them to me at rolandksmith@gmail.com. We'll see you online.